Every van build is different, but one thing that stays pretty consistent throughout basically everybody's build is getting a Maxxair fan. We're going to be installing 2 of these bad boys into our ProMaster today, one with an adapter and one without. So if you're looking to do this yourself, this is going to be the ultimate tutorial on how to do this properly.
We chose to do 2 Maxxair fans because we are not having AC in the van and we want to have lots of air circulation throughout the van.
We'll be installing one in the front and one in the back to create a natural air cycle throughout the van. This is one step of your van build that you really do not want to mess up. So make sure you pay attention to this, but we promise that this will be the most informative video that you'll find here on YouTube. Without further ado, let's quickly hop into all the supplies, tools, and materials that you'll need for this build. Everything you see here will be linked down below, both for Americans and Canadians, hopefully our UK friends soon too. So if you're looking to purchase everything, I can make it really easy. Just follow the link down below. First of all, obviously we have all of our protective gear, so you'll need your glasses, your gloves. We have also surgical gloves for when we're dealing with our lap sealants and stuff. It gets kind of messy. Ear protection, clamps. We've got screws that are a bit longer than the ones that come in the Maxxair fan box, and this will be important because we're using an adapter, 1.5 inch screws today. Some duct tape, Sharpie, a screwdriver for your screws. We've got these Scotch scoring pads. This will be used to just mark up the roof before we apply our sealant to give better grip. Also, whenever we cut, we're also going to protect with protective enamel. You can either get the brush-on kind or the spray-on kind. We'll be using both. We have our drill and drill bits. We also have a step drill bit. This is optional, but it definitely makes things a lot cleaner and easier. Also, for the drill, you also are going to want some cutting oil. This just makes it easier and makes your drill bits last longer. Then we have our jigsaw. This is the big showpiece today. This is what we'll be using the most. And we have some high-speed steel jigsaw bits for that. When we're using our jigsaw, we're going to want to use a bunch of masking tape all around to make sure that we're not scuffing up the van and that things slide really nicely, and it also will protect your van from metal shavings while you're cutting. Once we're done cutting, we're going to be using this deburring tool to get rid of all the sharp edges on the cuts that we made. This is optional. You could also just use some metal files. We've got a speed square. For our sealants, we have a couple different options. We can either use Sikiflex or polyurethane window adhesive and then cover it all with a lap sealant. You also need a caulking gun to pull all that off. Wrapping it up here, we have our butyl tape and some scissors to cut it, some trash bags to protect everything on the roof, and a broom to clean things up. Now, if you have an electrical port near you, I'd recommend using a vacuum instead, but we do not. Anyways, that's a quick look at what you'll need to actually complete this project. That should be everything. I guess also you need the fans themselves.
And just a note for the final install, we also needed a roof adapter to fit the shape of our ProMaster roof, but only needed one as the front of the roof doesn't have the same large contours like the back, and we bought this off eBay.
The last thing that you will need is something that you're gonna have to build. So let's hop into yesterday where I built one of these. The first step to installing our Maxxair fans will be to make a little frame for the inside that we can actually screw into. Without a frame, you're just screwing into metal and it's not gonna give you a super good hold from up above. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a little scrap piece of plywood. This is some 3/4 inch, which is just about perfect for the height of the trusses that are in the roof already. I would recommend just using any scrap plywood you have left over from doing something like your framing or your flooring. This does not have to be anything special. Don't take this step too crazy. What we do need to get right though is our inside dimensions. What we're looking for is to make a 14 inch by 14 inch internal dimensions. In reality, this is not tough. What we're gonna do, I'm gonna cut this strip in 2 so I get enough wood to make both of our frames with. I'll cut my 2 14-inch pieces, measure their width, times that width by 2, and then add that to 14.
In our case, our wood was 1 3/4 inch, so we cut 2 14-inch pieces and 2 17.5-inch pieces to get our frame 14 by 14 inside. Next up, we got out our Craig pocket screw jig and some wood glue to attach the frame together. We put our smaller lengths on the inside and the longer lengths on the outside. This pocket screw jig makes it super easy and clean. Again, the links to all this stuff will be in our van build document below, and using the links can help support our channel. We made 2 frames the exact same size as we're installing 2 fans. We also made sure to paint our frames with a protective coat to prevent mold or rot in the long term, especially since these are in a moisture-prone area.
So yesterday I came up here and I fit everything out. I made sure all my cross beams on my roof rack were in the right position, and then I also double-checked the beams down below by actually taking a little metal tapper, tapping and seeing where the bump came up. I marked those off with a little X, so now I know that this is the beam here and I cannot cut any further than that. Once I knew where the beams were under the van and where my solar panels and beams were going to be above the van, I was able to mark out a square with a Sharpie of where we're gonna cut. Now, I'm just gonna trust yesterday Max that he knew what he was doing and he did it right. And what we're gonna start with is some Scotch tape, and we're gonna go around the outside perimeter and basically make a border to our cut line. The reason we're putting so much tape down is we really don't want metal filings covering the van, and we also don't want to scuff up the van with the jigsaw. This just gives us some extra protection, and then after this, we're gonna also put a bunch of garbage bags around to collect all those metal filings. Metal shavings are like death to a van. They cause rusting so fast, so we're really trying to avoid having any residual metal shavings after this project.
And here's a little trick for you. If you tape the Maxxair fan box to the roof, you can stop all the metal shavings from falling into your van, which we strongly recommend. And now the scary part begins. We started off by making some pilot holes in our roof where the jigsaw blade will begin cutting from. We have a hole.
There's a hole.
We would recommend you make this hole about an inch away from the actual corner of your cut line because you will need to make this hole pretty big. We expanded the hole with our step drill bit.
This marks the first cut that we're making in the outside of our van. It's always nerve-wracking. Yeah, you really don't want to mess this one up.
Remember, measure twice, cut once.
Measure twice, cut once, but we didn't measure it all today.
Wait, really? Also, Max gave me his ear protection, so you'll see that he is not wearing any, but you really should use it as this can cause hearing damage. It's way louder than it sounds in the video. We have a hole!
Yeah. Damn, my ears are ringing.
Oh my goodness, there's a hole.
Yep, there's a hole.
Wow.
That's great. It's
Yeah?
perfect, it's right on target. Next step is to deburr.
Deburring will prevent you from cutting yourself or damaging the fan. Follow this up with a scoring pad to rough up the surface for later and test it out to see if your fan fits before continuing.
You ready to see if it fits? These two pieces go on the sides. Boom. Like a glove. All right, that fits, so we can paint.
Add some Rust-Oleum protective enamel to make sure there's no exposed metal so that there will be no rust in the future.
Whoa.
It's easiest to do this step with a little foam brush. Can you also grab me another camera battery while you're done? Next up, we put some Sikaflex on the first frame we built and clamped it down to our roof from below and let it dry while we moved up to the front.
While the frame underneath that other vent is drying, we're gonna switch over to this one and get this one all ready and probably cut it, then head back to that one to go finish it up while this one dries. Now, this one should actually be easier than the first one, but we'll see.
We're doing the same steps here at the front, once again, covering our van to protect it from any metal shavings, adding a box below to catch the metal, drilling pilot holes in our corners for our jigsaw, and making them bigger with our step-up drill bit. And then we cut down our lines, test the fit of the frame, clean up, deburr, score, clean, paint, and glue our frame up with the Sikaflex.
All right, let's go put this up on our ceiling. All right, now that this one is all clamped up, we're gonna move back to the back and we're gonna put on our roof adapter.
Since our roof at the back isn't flat, we're adding this roof adapter first. We use the Sikaflex to seal it to our roof. Don't go light on the Sikaflex here as this is a crucial seal. To make sure it's in the right place, we'll add in our fan frame just to double check, and then once again, we'll clamp down and let it dry. While that dries, we are moving back up to the front where we'll use our fan frame to help us drill some pilot holes through our roof and into our wood that we'll screw into in a minute. We also use a magnet over these holes to clean up all the metal shavings to prevent rust. Next up, we flip our frame over and add our butyl tape, making sure to overlap the corners and press everything down well, but not leave any low spots where we could get leaks. Flipping it over to make sure that the tabs you see are on the sides of the van and not the front or back before getting your screws included in the Maxxair fans box and screwing them into the wood frame below. And now you can drop in your fan.
And indeed it fits, and look at that alignment. That's called planning right there. Wow, no more than an 1/8 of an inch away from this bar, which has to be here. We're still gonna take this out and put a bunch of lap sealant over and let it sit overnight, but we just wanna test it before we actually put it in, just to make sure that everything fits, because once you put that lap sealant on, this ain't coming out.
One last clean with some alcohol and a perimeter of masking tape, and it's time to apply a perimeter of lap sealant, especially over your screws and the edge of the frame and the van roof. You will need a whole tube of this stuff per fan. This gives another layer of protection against water, but watch out, this stuff is crazy sticky. Moving to the back again, we repeated the same steps just through the adapter we set up back here. We drilled pilot holes and added butyl tape to the fan frame. Make sure that the tabs are facing outwards, and then we used the longer 8 by 1.5 inch screws we picked up to screw through the frame, butyl tape, adapter, roof, and into the wood frame below.
Alright, time to see if this last one fits again. It's gonna be tight. Boom. Again, 1/8 of an inch on this side. Wow.
After making sure it was a good fit, we applied our lap sealant, but
1 canister of this Dicor lap sealant does only 1 fan. I tried to do 2 with 1 and I just ran out, and now I don't really know what to do. So I guess I'm just gonna try and get one of these as fast as possible and finish the rest of it, but yeah, not great. If you have 2 fans, get 2. That's it. Learn from my mistake. Don't make the same one. I guess that means that we're done for the night. Pretty successful. We were able to get both basically fully installed in one day. I'm a little burnt, a little toasty. Definitely wear your sunscreen, but in general, not too bad. Not really something to stress about. It's definitely what people stress about most, but it's honestly not as bad as you think.
The next day, after our Dicor lap sealant dried, we removed the fans that were just sitting in place, and you have to kind of pull the metal tabs up a bit to get the screw to align in the hole. Use a small screwdriver to help with this. Once everything was lined up, we attached our fans with the 4 screws left in our Maxxair fan kit and repeated the same at the back, but this was a lot more tricky with the solar panels in the way. Also, this is just one part of our whole van roof setup, which we think is the most efficient van roof layout ever built. We have 950 watts of solar, a skylight, and a deck. If you want to see a whole roof layout and build overview, click this video here. You won't regret it.
That is how you install Maxxair fans on your van. If you have any questions, leave them down below. If you have any comments or suggestions, leave them down below. And if you want to pick up any of the tools, supplies, or materials, that'll all be also linked down below. Hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe.